set up nicely and things like that. It's just, it works for them, does the job kind of thing. It might be slightly older tech and stuff like that. And yeah, so I think it's good to have that context as well. If you are doing this kind of developer content stuff, like having some sense of what is going on in the real world is probably useful.
Yeah, because you gotta wear both hats. You're not just a developer; you're also a business owner. So whatever gets the job done and gets you to the next project, earning more money again, right?
Yeah.
Just as you were talking there, started wondering, like, how do you even find these opportunities for side gigs? I mean, there is that option of coming up with a business yourself and creating your own company, but there are other side gigs where maybe you need to, like, I don't know, there's different websites you can put yourself on. There's different networking opportunities where someone connects you to so-and-so, connects you to so-and-so. So really, I'd just love to know, like, how are you marketing yourself? How are you finding these opportunities? Is it advertisements? What do you do to find these opportunities?
Well, everything that I get now is through my existing presence online. So it's from the content stuff. Like earlier on when I had those initial sort of clients, that was just more luck, I guess, really, than anything. Like, just, happening to know someone, and then, they have a friend who wanted something, that kind of thing, that sort of local word of mouth kind of marketing for freelance stuff. But again, I didn't do that for too long. So I never really explored that sort of means for sort of generating leads and stuff like that. But I guess that is the benefit of doing the content stuff, that as you sort of put that content out there, you do start to develop that presence and that brand and things like that. And that, what we were talking about before, that false perception perhaps that you are like this angular god or whatever, that creating content can give you, that can help with like getting clients. Like if your client thinks you're amazing and wants to give you money because they have this false perception that you're better than you are, then that's kind of works in your favor. So yeah, I think the content stuff is a fantastic way to create that sort of stream of people who want you to work on things. And and stuff like Twitter as well, like just connecting with people on Twitter. It's like an easy one to do, get involved and share things. And if you're sort of out there helping, the community and releasing content and things like that, trying to teach people things, people are going to follow you. They're going to like you. They're going to recommend you if an opportunity comes up. So for me, that's always been the approach. The content creation, just sort of building that sort of presence online has been what I have done. But obviously, there are other things you can do as well. That's not the only way to go about doing it, but that's the way that I know about.
I've had people reach out to me because I spoke at a meetup or because I ran a meetup, right? It all goes back to that. They think you're an expert. You probably are an expert at a few things. So if you are able to showcase your knowledge and teach others, then they might have some projects in mind or some friends who need help. And they're like, yeah, I can connect my friend to you. And some people are like really talented at connecting people. So also making friends with people who are naturally talented at that can really benefit, especially if you're looking for opportunities such as that.
We've found some really cool opportunities too, like through the meetup, where people will come to our Angular community meetup and they'll connect with other people who are wanting a mentor or maybe needing some consultation work. I've had several business owners reach out to me as I've been the director of the meetup, and they've asked, who would you recommend that we reach out to and connect with? So like if you're a more of a private consultant, that's a great way to meet people. And then I've also seen some really cool connections being made through things like live streaming and Twitch. If you're live streaming, if you're doing like YouTube live things or something similar, you get some really interesting people who come in and start following you. And I know, Josh, you mentioned earlier, like you start making these connections and kind of like lifelong friends with people through these things that, like these efforts that you're making. But it's so true. Like as you go live and you have this live stream, then all of a sudden you start having regulars who come and watch you every Saturday or every stream that you're doing. And pretty soon you're communicating through email or you're meeting up on some live chat or something, that Google Meet or whatever. So those are some pretty easy ways too, just to let people know that, hey, I'm available and I'd love to connect with you.
Yeah, and on that point as well, you mentioned like, you get those regulars, as you mentioned, like That is an important point, I think, about the content creation. Like if I was to give some advice, I think if you are going to do it at like a consistent interval that you can maintain, if that's like once a week or once a month or whatever. I think that's how you get those sort of regular followers. Like if you continually put out content on a consistent basis, you're going to get people coming back to see that because they know that you're going to be putting more content out. But it can be hard to keep a consistent schedule with content. And so I think a lot of the time people do sort of put out content, they've got some time, they pump out some videos or articles and things like that. But then, life happens and they don't have the time to do it. And so then maybe, it goes a couple months where you don't put any content out. And I feel like you lose that sort of momentum of that kind of, I don't know, it's like compound interest of like a following kind of thing. Like the more consistently you do it, you get those sort of regular people who like reading your stuff or watching your stuff or whatever.
We're going to kind of like wind down here. I know we've covered so many, like I've loved everything you've shared. This is such important and helpful information, but I do want to go back a couple of thoughts ago. I guess I could say you were mentioning clients, and that brings up something hopefully other people can relate to this. I think I'm someone that is like Doug the dog, where he sees a squirrel and he goes off and chases the squirrel, because I know that when I have Slack on or something else, like as soon as I hear that chime, I'm like, oh, message, and I have to go answer it. So when you have your salaried job, you've got your 9 to 5, and then all of a sudden you've got this side gig and you have your clients, how have you effectively managed being responsive to those clients if they send you emails or questions, they need help, they want answers, whatever it is? How are you managing them without letting it cut into your salaried work?
Yeah, I think that's super important. I'll probably talk more about like what I do now, because that's probably more of an issue for me now. And one thing is that I'm super selective with the clients I work with now. And that comes from obviously now having this sort of established reputation. You have more people that do want to work with me, so I can be more selective. And basically I just work with nice people who are, courteous and polite and, respect me and I respect them, that kind of thing. So that helps a lot with like managing that, I guess, expectations of not having people who are pinging you and expecting you to get back to them right away. Difficult clients like that. Obviously, sometimes you might need to work with those kinds of people. So I do try to be selective with who I'm working with. And one thing I do is, or I try to do at least, is I got this idea from, I don't know if you've ever heard of Tom Sachs, but he's like a New York sculptor, artist kind of person. I don't know a lot about him, but I got this idea from him, which was basically output before input. And the idea is like, if you wake up in the morning or whatever, you check your emails, you see what clients have emailed you, you want to respond to them, you immediately sort of get into that. It's like it drains all of your like creative energy or something. At least it does for me, and probably a lot of people as well. So the idea is I try to, before opening up emails or anything like that, or Twitter especially, to do something. I'll usually, before I go to bed the night before, I'll make sure I close my emails so they're not open when I log into my computer. And I'll probably just have some idea of what I want to work on. So I'll have up my course that I'm working on up on the page the lesson that I'm currently writing. And so when I wake up, that'll be the first thing I do before I check Twitter or my YouTube notifications to see how many people watch my video, or a client who wants, has posted some issue in the GitHub or something like that. I'll get that sort of creative work done and utilize that freshness before getting drained by things like Twitter. And I imagine a lot of people are like this, like the pull of things like Twitter and your emails for that like sort of, dopamine kind of thing is insane. And especially if you do this content kind of stuff, like if you put up a new video, I put them up at nighttime just before I go to bed. And if it's doing kind of well, when I wake up in the morning, like I want to see the stats for that video like so bad. And again, with that mindfulness kind of stuff, just like paying attention to how badly like my body wants to go look at these pointless numbers. Like the numbers are there whether I look at them or not, but it's just so hard to avoid doing that. And I really have to very consciously focus on being like, no, I'm going to do this bit of work first, or whatever I want to do, and then we can look at the numbers kind of thing. So when I can do that, which most of the time these days I've been doing pretty well, but if I can sort of have that output before input, it's been helping me sort of stay on track and stay focused a lot more.
Wow, some really great experiences there.
Probably a quote from Einstein in there somewhere.
Yeah, maybe it was Einstein, not Tom Sachs, who said that.
Alpha, yeah. Well, before we go, I think this is a really great idea, Brooke. You were mentioning how it'd be cool if Josh highlights 3 other YouTube channels or blogs or sites that you would like for our listeners to go check out. Obviously, we'll link yours in the notes as well. But if you've got some folks that it doesn't have to be 3, it could be more or less. But if you got some folks you'd like to give a shout out to, this would be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You already mentioned Chao Tran for me, but he's definitely on top of my list for people to mention. Yeah, definitely feel like I owe a lot to Chao, and a lot of my sort of recent development as a developer, I feel like has stemmed from sort of Chao and Chao's ideas. So he's fantastic and always willing to help people. He has I think he still does this, but he has like slots where you can just like book in and have a chat with him. For people who don't know him already, he's a Narwhal engineer. Very much knows what he's doing. Very smart guy. So he does live streams as well. So you can check that out. And if you're Vietnamese, he streams in Vietnamese sometimes as well. I think he does kind of half. Some streams are Vietnamese, some are in English. So definitely check Chao out. Victor Savkin, again, on the Narwhal train again here, but he is brilliant. I've learned a lot from Victor's blogs. Like Victor isn't sort of out there creating content right now, but he has some blogs from, I think, maybe like 2016, 2017. Victor used to work on the Angular team. He worked on the router primarily there, the Angular router, but he has this series of blog posts about just different fundamental concepts from Angular 2. And again, these are from like 2017, but they're still relevant today because it's really about the bare core fundamentals of Angular. And I just think they're super worthwhile reading through things like change detection, inputs and outputs, and event emitters, and how reactivity works in Angular. There's just so much interesting stuff there, and Victor's like super smart. So yeah, at one point I basically just read through all of these blog posts. So I think they're available on his personal website. I think you guys probably find the link, but I think it's like vsavkin.com, I think. But then they also have on the Narwhal Connect platform, they have this little portal where they have resources from the Narwhal team for learning stuff. And I think if you go onto that, there's also a book there from Victor. And I think someone else wrote it with him as well about some Angular stuff.
Jeff Cross, it's Essential Angular.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sorry for not mentioning you there, Jeff. Yeah, that's very awesome stuff.
He's just the secondary primary.
Yeah, I've heard he's just the secondary founder. Yeah. I do have a couple more. Brandon Roberts, also awesome person. He's been doing Twitter Spaces. Most of you probably know Brandon Roberts. But yeah, he does some YouTube videos and stuff as well on Angular. He's on the NJRX team. He works with Appright now. And yeah, he's been doing these sort of weekly Twitter Spaces, I guess, just talking about different things that come up in the Angular community. So I think that's a really cool idea. People can share their thoughts on things.
He also does live streaming too. So find him on Twitch.
Yeah, for sure. In my last one, I'll go with 4 instead of the 3. And not 100% sure on the pronunciation of the name here, but I think it's Anaya Jahalari, who has been on Twitter just posting Angular stuff. I think he's the one running the Angular Weekly newsletter thing. I'm not 100% sure on that, but basically he's always posting cool stuff on Twitter from, the Angular team's commits on the GitHub repo and just servicing all these cool new features that are coming out of Angular. He seems to know what's happening before everyone else. So if you want to go follow him, get some great recommendations, I think.
Okay, I'm going to personally put all of those folks in the links. Oh, no, Brooke already did it. So yeah, we're gonna share that out. Well, thank you so much, Josh. This was so much fun. We'd love to have you back sometime and see even more of your progress. I'll be watching more of your YouTube videos. And for the folks who are listening to the show right now, you can follow Josh at Joshua Morony. It's JOSHUA MORONY. It's pretty easy. His first and last name.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Josh. It was really fun.
No worries. Thank you guys.
We'll have to make sure we'll somehow like rig ngconf and make sure you get chosen.
Yes, please rig it for me. Excellent.
Okay. Love
Brooke has sway,
Oh, right. Yeah.
Just kidding. No, we don't have any sway.
No, I really don't.
But I will say also, if there's any listeners to this episode who would like to comment on some of the things or add to what we've talked about today, please feel free. That's sort of the beauty of this show. Is it's really from the